my most sincere apologies that I am standing here in place of my mother. I know many of you came out on this cold winter evening in order to hear her speak, as well as, of course, hear Manu's lecture and learn more about this wonderful book. And I have to say that 2 days ago, she stood at a podium like this, and we do have pictures, and you will one day hear her in her own voice saying these words. And she said, "I'm not well, but I'm my mother's daughter, and so I am here." And I also have to say that the reason she's not here is not because she desisted, but we, her daughters, decided with her, but we decided that it really wasn't safe. And in the state of her exhaustion, in which she might have been willing to continue, and with gatherings becoming again possibly more dangerous, we thought it wasn't wise. But we have filmed the event in Dehradun, and at some point you will hear her. But for tonight, I'm going to deliver her remarks.
Gita Sehgal.
I'm very happy that Manu Bhagwan has written a biography of my mother, Vijay Lakshmi Pandit. He has brought her forth again into the limelight. Her life and achievements and all that people need to know now and may have forgotten in all the years that she had been forgotten. I have to tell you, I'm a great and passionate admirer of both my parents, who did the right thing without turning a hair. The right thing. They never told my sisters and myself that this is the right thing to do. We could make up our own minds. In fact, we followed the example of both our parents. Long after my father died, my mother carried on the same tradition of being open with each other, not So what was the right thing at the time? We were ruled by a foreign power, Britain. I grew up at a time when the map of the world was painted pink. Pink for the parts that were ruled by Britain, the British Empire, of course. But under the leadership of Gandhiji, it meant making our own way on our own terms. We have forgotten the lessons of Satyagraha that Gandhiji taught us. It was not only that the struggle was important, but the fact that it was non-violent meant that many women were able to join who might otherwise not have done so. Gandhiji called upon Indians to act, free of the control of the British government. He meant that we were not free, but we should behave as if we were. A great, almost countrywide movement happened. The salt tax, as you all know, was opposed. And for many thousands or hundreds of thousands of Indians who opposed British rule, it meant dissociating themselves from institutions and dissociating, in all kinds, courts, schools, colleges, and so on. Both my parents went to jail, and I remember my father being taken away by the police. My mother, who was expecting him to be arrested, had made a chocolate cake for tea so that we wouldn't be entirely bereft. That is why I called my first book about my childhood, Prison and Chocolate Cake. My mother had always been at the forefront of the political struggle for freedom, along with many other women. She was imprisoned 3 times. It was a very brave thing to do, as she was separated from her children for many years. It must have been hard for a young mother. It certainly was difficult for her children. We were taught to hold our heads high and be unafraid, to never cry when dozens of police came to arrest my parents. I remember how many came to arrest one lone woman who was non-violent and was not resisting arrest. We didn't cry in public, but it was difficult for a small child to do at times. My father died of his many imprisonments. My mother had pleaded with him many times to ask for his release, but he refused repeatedly. The last interview she had with him in jail, he was brought in on a stretcher to the superintendent's office. His head had been shaved. He was skin and bone. She was utterly shocked. If I remember correctly, she disobeyed him and asked for his release on health grounds. But she had no time to mourn as a widow. With only daughters and no son, she inherited none of her husband's wealth. Years later, she attributed the passage of the Hindu Code Bill, at least in part, to her ordeal when she was widowed. Her brother had told her, "I hope you're not going to wear widow's weeds." And of course, she did not go into private mourning, but as Manu's biography shows, worked in the Bengal famine and went to America to represent India's call for freedom. That launched her on a whole new career, but for her, it was a continuation of the ethics of the struggle to which she had given everything and to which my father gave his life. Gandhiji sent her to America because we needed someone to represent the cause of India's freedom, as the British had their own Indian delegation, and she did it spectacularly well, as you will find out if you read the book. If I think of their legacy, I think of their courage. They were from well-to-do families who could have spent their lives in absolute comfort and had everything they wanted. I also remember her sense of adventure, which was encouraged by her brother Jawaharlal Nehru. When she made one of the most difficult decisions of her life to publicly oppose her niece Indira Gandhi during the emergency, I was her advisor and counselor. I had joined the JP movement, which had attracted followers from the right and left to challenge the growing trend to authoritarian, personality-ruled government. Of all the family, we were the closest to each other in our political thought. She would grieve at the India we are becoming, but I hope that reading about her life, lived in a time of imperialism, war and fascism, people young and old will draw inspiration from what she did and how she did it. I want to end with a poem that my mother taught me, and as my sister and I know, she recites this poem every few days to us. Mourn not the dead. Mourn not the dead that in the cool earth lie, dust unto dust, that calm, sweet earth that mothers all who die, as all men must. Mourn not your captured comrades, who must dwell, too strong to strive, each in his steel-bound coffin of a cell, buried alive. But rather mourn the apathetic throng, the cowed and the meek, who see the world's great anguish and its wrong, and dare not speak.
That's Gita Sehgal. Reciting for Vijay. Vijay Lakshmi Pandit's granddaughter. Gita Sehgal.